Hey, y'all, and welcome to the Cody Wolf Bringing Country Back podcast. This is episode 1, season 1, and today we are counting down the top male country singers of all time. So without further ado, let's get to it. Starting off the countdown list at number 10. It's not summertime, and it's not the beach without this next guy, man. Every single time I hear one of his songs, it makes me automatically want to go to the beach, want to have fun in the summertime, or, I don't know, maybe drink a Blue Chair Bay rum. Who I'm talking about is Mr. Kenny Chesney, and if you heard one single Kenny Chesney song, I think you would agree that his voice is very distinctive. If you really listen to his voice, it's pretty much like nobody else in country music. So, in my opinion, that puts you right up there with a lot of the great artists because originality is very distinctive and it's a very hard thing to come by. So I'd like to put Mr. Kenny Chesney at number 10 for the top male country singers of all time. Welcome back to my countdown for the top 10 male country singers of all time. So we are looking at number 9, and now there has been very few country music concerts that have completely blown my mind, let's say, and I can't think of anyone better to come in at number 9 than Mr. Alan Jackson, because I saw him in concert and he was just phenomenal. Talk about sounding like the record. Talking about a distinctive, great, iconic country voice, man. At number 9, I can't think of anyone. There's very few country artists in country music now that can top Alan Jackson. So, Alan Jackson, you got my pick for number 9. You are, by far one of the best in concert, and definitely one of my favorite artists. Y'all, welcome back to my countdown. We are at number 8 for the top male country singers of all time. So I'm going to pick, this was a really hard choice for me, but I'm going to pick Garth Brooks. Now, Garth has a really distinctive voice too. And for some people, they didn't like Garth Brooks. I think Will and Jennings said he sounded like Mr. Haney from Green Acres. I think Garth has a really distinctive and great voice. He has a very great range. Is it spectacular? No, but is it a distinctive style? Yes. And is it legendary, iconic? Is there anyone that has really been anything since? I mean, there's been people trying to emulate him, but for icon, legendary status, I would like to pick Garth Brooks. So Garth Brooks is at number 8 for top male country singers of all time. That was a hard choice, by the way. Well, you just might be asking yourselves, who could top Kenny Chesney, Alan Jackson, and Garth Brooks? Well, if you ask Chris Young his pick for the top male country singer of all time, one of his favorites might be this next guy right here. He might just say Mr. Vince Gill. Now, I agree with Chris here because Vince has an undeniable emotion, feeling, soulfulness, and maybe kind of a lonesome-y kind of sound in his voice, if that is the correct word. It's just a feeling that can't be taught. Vince feels what he sings. And to me, it's very iconic. And he is on tour with the Eagles right now. He's very, very skillful. Not only is he a great vocalist, he could play tons and tons of instruments. He's probably ranks as the most talented of musicians. He's played with a million people, from John Fogerty to Eric Clapton. True country music legend, Mr. Vince Gill, and easily one of the best male country singers of all time. Hey, y'all, coming in at number 6. When I first heard The Get Up on country music radio, I thought, man, I must be on the wrong station. Something's wrong here. So I went and I tried changing the station, and it turned out it was country music. I was like, man, I got to change this to the country station. And I realized that they tuned the living crap out of his voice, and I figured Blanco Brown couldn't sing. And boy, oh boy, was I wrong, man. I went and I saw this guy in concert in Nashville because I connected him, with him on Twitter. And I said, man, I'm going to go support him, and I went to his concert. And he went from singing Tennessee Whiskey to these great, soulful, bluesy, amazing sounding songs. He showed off his huge vocal range. He had whistle notes. He had this great, full thickness to his tone that I really can't describe, man. You just have to go see him in person. And easily, I knew right away that there was some major talent that was being overlooked at with a lot of what he's cutting. So I don't know what in the world they're thinking. I love the trap music, and it is great, and it does sell really well. But man, you got to hear this voice. You got to hear Blanco Brown because he's sadly underrated as being a really great vocalist. And it gives me great honor, man, to put Blanco Brown at number 6. So y'all go see him in concert, man. He is easily one of the best country vocalists of our time. There is no question about it. Number 5. All right, y'all, so I decided to ask around Nashville to some pretty big country music stars as to who they would pick to be on this list. And one name kept coming up a lot. To my surprise, it was Shay Mooney from Dan and Shay. Now, Shay has a very distinctive high tenor vocal range that is very hard to emulate. I've listened to a YouTube short of him 1,000,001 times, listening to him sing this Rascal Flatts song to his little baby, and it was just unbelievable. I think probably even Gary was looking at that being like, man, he's good. And it's a very, very hard voice to emulate, and I think you could take years of vocal lessons and not come close to Shay Mooney. So the feeling is mutual with everybody. I think a lot of the fellow country artists look at him and as to this amazing vocalist, and myself included. That's why I'm picking Shay Mooney of Dan and Shay at number 5. All right, y'all, coming in at number 4, we have John Denver, Country Roads, Rocky Mountain High. You know the guy I'm talking about. He's got that vibrato. It's very, very great range. His range is great, especially on Rocky Mountain High. So with the way he hits some of the higher notes, his vowel placement, everything about him, man. I mean, I love John Denver's voice. So John Denver coming in at number 4. We are at number 3. And I've heard Broken Road and Here Comes Goodbye on the radio a time or two. And you'd be hard-pressed to find a better country vocalist than Mr. Gary LeVox of Rascal Flatts. Alone, Gary is just unbelievable. He blew me away when I first heard him singing in probably the mid-2000s when Rascal Flatts first came on the scene. And Broken Road, just the way he sings, you want to talk about feeling. There's feeling in his voice as well. It's kind of hard to find feeling and emotion in a lot of these modern country artists, but nobody sells it better than Gary does. So for number 3, I'm picking Gary LeVox of Rascal Flatts. Coming in at number 2. When I think country music, I think of 2 words that just pop into my mind right away, and that's baritone voice. Now, baritone voice is one of those deep, throaty, low voices that pretty much would win over any girl that comes within range of it. It is an instant panty dropper, and it's something that I don't have. Unfortunately, I have a tenor vocal range, but the range that I'm talking about would probably be kind of similar to a Randy Travis, a Blake Shelton, a Josh Turner. But Josh Turner and all those other guys I mentioned do not have the range that Mr. Chris Young has. So my pick for number 2 would go to Chris Young. I think Chris's voice is just out of this world. I watched so many live performances of him and recordings, and I even took the music out of a couple of his tracks just to hear his voice alone. And honestly, I don't know how in the world it's just huge. It's iconic. It's amazing. Number 2 goes to Chris Young. All right, before we get to our number 1 spot, I have a few honorable mentions. So, this was a very hard list to put together, especially because there has been so much over time, and there's some icons that I do not want to get overlooked, and that I believe belong on this list. So, as a personal favorite, and I couldn't put this on the list because probably not a lot of people would know who Burl Ives is, but Burl Ives is one of the most distinctive, iconic, legendary voices in all of country music. It sounds so lonesome. I would kind of compare it to Vince Gill's a little bit, but it is in a class all of its own. It is classic country music. He is probably most familiar with some people with singing "Holly Jolly Christmas" and "On Top of Old Smoky." But Burl Ives has a very distinctive voice, and it's easily one of my favorites. This wouldn't be a top male country artist list if I didn't mention Roger Miller. Roger Miller's got one of those voices that sounds like he smoked too much at a trailer park. And to me, that embodies the sound of true, real country music. So I want to give an honorable mention to King of the Road himself, Roger Miller. Not maybe a lot of modern country music fans aren't familiar with the sound, but if you aren't, look him up. He is a country music icon, King of the Road, Roger Miller. Also want to give a shout out to Conway Twitty and Merle Haggard. Those two are my favorite, personally, my favorite country music artists. We're going with really more distinctive tones for this list, but it wouldn't be a top male country artist list if I didn't mention any of those guys because they're legends. In my opinion, they are amazing. You're listening to the Cody Wolf Bringing Country Back podcast. Topping our list of the top male country singers of all time is a legendary, iconic Cody Wolf. No, guys, it's not me. It is the man in black himself. Who's going to argue that Johnny Cash isn't the top male country artist of all time? There's no doubt about it, guys. Back in the day, those artists at Sun Records, Elvis included, cut so many songs that their catalog is just phenomenal. I'm going back looking at a lot of the songs he cut, and he pretty much cut anything that was popular at the time. And you don't see artists doing that anymore. And not only did he cut anything that was popular, but he would make it his own. And every single time that he sang something, no matter what genre it was, no matter what song it was, it always sounded good and it always sounded like him. And to me, that is a legend. So number 1 of the top male country artists of all time is Mr. Johnny Cash. All right, y'all. I had a blast making this podcast episode. Once again, this is the Cody Wolf Bringing Country Back podcast. And it's been great having you. Thank you guys for listening to the end. There's going to be more episodes after this, so please follow me, subscribe, and tune in. And we're going to cover some great topics here, so I look forward to making this at least weekly thing. I think we're going to have fun with this. So please give me a follow, and I will see you guys on the flip side. Be sure to follow me at Twitter, Cody Wolf Music, at Facebook, Cody Wolf Music, on Instagram, Cody Wolf Music, and am I missing anywhere? Oh, TikTok at Cody Wolf Music. See you guys later. Peace out. Thank you.